Hello, brothers and sisters. Thanks for joining. Well, today a friend of mine shared this meme with me from Occupy Democrats, and she's definitely a big supporter of all things Democrat and a very big disliker of the GOP, to put it lightly. And I thought this was interesting, and I decided I had to talk about it because it was just too good. So thank you for the content. I'll leave her unnamed. We need to stop trusting the experts. Trusting the experts is not a feature of science or democracy. It's a feature of religion and totalitarianism from RFK Jr. And then I guess from Occupy Democrat, that group, their response is, yes, the moron really said that, your reaction. So you know what? I'm going to react to it. So on the face of this, it sounds pretty stupid. We need to stop trusting the experts. Trusting the experts is not a feature of science or democracy. It's a feature of religion and totalitarianism. On the face of it, it sounds dumb. I actually think I know what he's talking about. So I don't think it's actually dumb. I think it could be said better. And I thought about this, and kind of my response to my friend was something like, hey, let me fix this for him. Instead of saying we need to stop trusting the experts, it might be better to say we need to be skeptical of the experts. That's really what I would say. Because the experts are often wrong, and I do get it. We put a lot of trust in them because they know more than we do about their topic. But I remember back to when I was in, gosh, I think it might have been elementary school or maybe junior high. But they taught us the scientific method, and I remember that in the scientific method, you basically come up with a hypothesis and then you try to kind of disprove it, or you try to prove the null hypothesis, if anyone remembers that. And you use statistics and such, and the scientific method to examine whatever the topic is. And if you can't prove it wrong, then it might be right. But then we need to keep digging and always be digging because there could always be new information. So that's what I remember. So I would say be skeptical. And I think where he's coming from here when he's saying trusting the experts is, for me, I actually don't believe the experts in a lot of cases now, because what's happened in our society today is science has been politicized. And I think this started with global warming, and then it got even worse during COVID. Experts came out and said things like sea levels will rise by such and such, and there's going to be islands underwater, and everyone who's got beachfront property are going to be underwater. And Al Gore famously said in his movie that hurricanes were going to get stronger, and most of those things didn't really happen. And now I've seen new science that's come out and say, oh, we're actually in a cooling period and CO2 doesn't really solve that. And then, for years, I remember being told margarine was the thing you should eat because, butter was bad for you. And then I think I saw actually butter is what's good for you. So what I'm trying to say there is science evolves. And so you need to be skeptical of science. And on the COVID and the global warming, they flat out lied to us. Because I do believe that the people that were getting all the funding were people that were pushing that climate change was a problem agenda. And the people that were skeptical of that weren't getting any funding. And people who during the COVID-19 crisis said, hey, you know what? I think a fair treatment of COVID might be ivermectin, and doctors who said that got canceled. And Joe Rogan, they tried to cancel Joe Rogan when he said he took ivermectin. And then there were other therapies that Rogan famously said he took and his doctors told him to take. And if you took those at the time, you got canceled. You were laughed out of the room. They told us we all had to wear masks and stay 6 feet apart. Now, I think even Fauci said masks and being 6 feet apart really don't do anything. But this was kind of if you questioned the orthodoxy of the experts, then you were just a retard, basically. And so I think that's where this sentiment comes from. We need to stop trusting the experts. For me, it popped back up during the gun debate because for me, the best examples of this are in the gun debate. Let's play a couple of clips and see what some of the experts say during the gun debate. Now, these are very current. These are things that I pulled off the internet that were said on either, I think, MSNBC or CNN by their experts during the horrible shooting or after the horrible shooting where those children were killed and wounded in Minneapolis. Let's see what some of the experts said here, and let's think about that.
Have more guns in America than we have people. The reality is that we have these assault rifles that can reel off 30 clips in conjunction with a magazine before the person even needs to reload. The reality is that these guns make their way into cities across America by the trunk.
So I'm going to play that again one more time. What I think I heard him say was, we have more guns in America than we have people. I agree with that. And that these semi-automatic rifles with one trigger pull can fire 30 clips. I don't want to put words in the man's mouth. Let's listen to it again.
In America than we have people. The reality is that we have these assault rifles that can reel off 30 clips in conjunction with a magazine before the person even needs to reload.
So it's not per trigger pull. He can shoot 30 clips before he needs to reload. Okay, so I don't know what he just said there because it was all nonsense. And I know this guy's going to be given a pass because he's a mayor. He's not a quote-unquote gun expert. But you know what? People will believe what he said. And I don't know if he said it out of ignorance. I don't know if he said it because he misspoke, or if he said it as just a flat out lie, because people will hear that and believe what he just said and really not know what he was talking about, but it makes those guns sound much more scary. A semi-automatic rifle can only fire one bullet per trigger pull. That's all it can do. And depending on the size of the magazine, it can shoot the number in the magazine. A clip is similar to a magazine. It's a magazine feeding device. You'll usually find it in a rifle like an old style M1 Garand. And it'll hold, I don't know, 5-7 rounds. I don't remember off the top of my head. But they're loaded into these clips and then fed into the rifle. So they're similar to magazines. They're ammunition feeding devices. So it's a nonsense statement that means nothing to say in conjunction or with a magazine you can fire 30 clips without reloading. It's a meaningless sentence, but people hear that and it's scary. And then again, did he say it because it was scary and he was just trying to lie to us and get our emotions up so we would vote for these nonsense gun laws? Because they're nonsense if they're based on 30 clips out of a magazine. Or is he just misinformed, or did he just misspoke in the heat of the moment? Now let's pull up another expert. This one looks like it's on CNN. Sources: shooter at a Minneapolis Catholic school is dead. So this happened right after the shooting in Minneapolis, 10 a.m. Central Time. Sources: up to 20 victims in the shooting at Catholic school in Minneapolis, gunman dead. And so we have an expert here. So this was about a minute and a half. Let's do the same. Let's see what this expert has to say about semi-automatic rifles.
Associated with the school would know that this is happening.
Yeah, and oftentimes we see in these school shootings, particularly with religious institutions, it's a former student. We saw that at the Covenant School in Nashville back in 2023, where the former student, Audrey Hale, killed 3 9-year-olds, 3 adults. We are waiting to learn more about this suspect or shooter at this 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time press conference that we're expecting from officials there on the ground. It was really disturbing to hear what the man we heard from the affiliate said about how long it went on. He said there were several minutes. Now, we don't know if that was just from the shooter or if law enforcement had arrived by then or the circumstances around that. But he said it sounded like the gun was reloaded several times. It seemed like a rifle, he said, a semi-automatic rifle, and it went on for several minutes.
Right, and look, that's not uncommon as well. These things can shoot.
But he said it sounded like the gun was reloaded several times. It seemed like a rifle, he said, a semi-automatic rifle, and it went on for several minutes.
Right, and look, that's not uncommon as well. These things can shoot. dozens of bullets, in just one trigger pull, right? And so what happens in this case is sometimes they have enough time to reload. It's one of the most horrific things for students to be sitting there. You saw this in Uvalde, you see this in Newtown repeatedly, where a shooter has enough time to reload, and the horrific nature of this is, for little kids to be facing this.
It's just too much to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with most of what was said there. It was mostly about this being horrific for the little kids. But did you catch what he said, this expert? So let's listen to what he said again.
He said a semi-automatic rifle, and it went on for several minutes.
Right, and look, that's not uncommon as well. These things can shoot dozens of bullets, in just one trigger pull, right? And so
they can shoot dozens of bullets in one trigger pull. This gentleman doesn't actually know what a semi-automatic rifle is. Because a semi-automatic rifle cannot shoot dozens of bullets in one trigger pull, unless it's malfunctioning. But what he's actually describing is more of a automatic rifle, not a semi-automatic. And people will probably come up and go, oh, you're just quibbling about that. No, I'm not, because I think, again, is he doing it because he's misinformed, or he just doesn't know, or he's just a retard? Or is he doing it on purpose to push his political narrative that these guns are actually scarier than they are? They're pretty scary just the way they are. One trigger pull of a 5.56 round will definitely kill you if it hits you anywhere vital. What the gun control groups like to do is to play on people's emotion and not actually use real facts. And so they'll say that these guns can do this, whatever this is, and quite frequently, it's things that these guns can't do, but it makes them scarier. But he had a semi-automatic rifle. But they say that, and then they say we need to ban all the semi-automatic rifles because they can shoot these 12 bullets. And people believe them. People that are uneducated on guns believe them. And I'm all about, if we want to ban guns, okay, but let's use actual real facts and not just spin people up to spin people up. And then, full disclosure, it shouldn't be any surprise after hearing me. I don't believe guns should be banned. I believe everyone has a right to self-defense, and we should put criminals in jail, and we should just enforce the gun laws that we have. I'm okay with reasonable gun restrictions. I actually think we have too many gun laws that infringe on my rights to own guns. So I'm actually happy with the way the Second Amendment is being handled right in the courts today. And all of these unconstitutional laws are getting swept away. So those are my thoughts on guns. But let's go back to the original story. We need to stop trusting the experts. Well, if it's to trust that a semi-automatic weapon doesn't need to be reloaded until we fired 30 clips, if that expert says 12 bullets can be fired with one trigger pull from a semi-automatic rifle, if they say the COVID vaccine will stop you from getting COVID, which was 100% said, and if they say ivermectin is really just horse dewormer and has no use in humans, yeah, I think maybe I don't need to trust the experts. So again, be skeptical. The problem with experts in today's world is they're politicized. They aren't just doing pure science. They're pushing an agenda. That's why I think he said what he said. He did not say it very eloquently, and I don't know the context of this quote. It could be taken out of context, but fair enough. Happens all the time. Everybody does. I think the sentiment is right. Let's be skeptical of experts. All right, let me know what you think. Agree, disagree? Let me know in the comments. Follow me if you like me. Don't follow me, and don't watch me if you don't. Thanks, bye.